Alright, here's how to apply the noting technique in your day. Firstly, you're going to still continue what you were doing yesterday, where you're going to be mindfully opening and closing tasks. And right in the middle of opening and closing, that's when you're actually doing your task. And as you're doing it, when you notice that your mind has wandered, you find that you've been distracted, and you suddenly wake up to that fact, you're just going to gently note the nature of that distraction. You can label it. Then you'll let it go and bring your attention back to your task at hand. It really is as simple as that, but simple does not necessarily mean that it's easy. So there are a couple of nuances to this to really make it work. The first is, of course, you don't want to treat this like a game of whack-a-mole. That would be totally exhausting. Some people, when they just learn the noting technique, it's like they're on edge the entire time, like they're just waiting for a thought or a feeling to pop up so that they can bash it and chuck it away. That's not how this technique is supposed to be. It's supposed to be really nice and gentle. Imagine something is floating in your coffee or your tea, and if you try and like bash it out, try to get it, you're never going to catch it. You need to very gently just kind of touch it for it to then stick and come out. So that's what you're going to do when you actually notice that you've been lost in thought. Just very gently note that you've been lost in thought, the nature of the thought, you could label it, and then just gently let it go and gently bring your attention back to the task at hand. It's all about having the light touch. Secondly, keep it simple. When you notice you've been lost in thought, don't get analytical about what the thought was and why you got lost in it, because otherwise, essentially, you're just creating more thoughts. Ultimately, you're just going to land up thinking about thinking, which is just another distraction. So, if you want to keep a really high level, that could help as well. For example, if let's say you're trying to do a task, but you're thinking about a meeting that you have later and you suddenly realize, I've been distracted by that thought about the meeting, you could simply label it as saying, thinking about the future. Then you can let it go and come back to your task at hand. Or let's say that you're trying to do a task and you're thinking about a conflict you had earlier in the day and what you said and what they said, and you suddenly realize you've been caught up in that thought, you could simply say, thinking about the past. Or if you realize that you're feeling quite angry because you're thinking about a conflict, you could just say, feeling anger. So you can really keep it nice and light. The important thing is to not get caught up thinking about thinking. And by the way, if right now you're wondering to yourself, Gilan, I've got this one particular type of thought that keeps popping up, or one emotion, just repeating over and over. What do I do? What does it mean? At a later stage, it'll be more appropriate for us to investigate what's behind certain distractions. Where do certain thoughts come from? What does it mean? But for now, we're just creating the superpower of focused attention. So let's focus on that. We're gearing up to, I'm going to show you how we're going to basically hack your brain. And to do that, we want to prepare by now taking everything we've learned over the last few days into your day ahead. And here's how we're going to do it. The first thing, as usual, you're going to open and close your tasks. In the middle, when you're doing those tasks, you're going to be noting any distractions and bringing your focus back. And you're going to put a smile on your mind every single time you happen to note that there's a distraction, because that means progress. Because most people operate their entire day on autopilot, never even realizing that they're getting swept down these vortexes of thought, that they're losing hours in a day. So if you notice this happening a lot today, that's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, because now you have that sense of awareness that's building up. By the way, if you found it helpful yesterday to set reminders or alarms on your phone, you could set a couple for today. The first one can say open and close, just to remind you to be doing that. And the second one can say note how you're thinking and feeling right now, which can help you to bring that into whichever moment you're experiencing. Remember, what we're trying to do is to punctuate your day with moments where we're bringing these techniques in. Soon it will become more second nature, but for now, the reminders might help. And on that note, let me also remind you to check in on our private group to let me and the entire community know what your experience has been so we can learn from each other. Have a limitless day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.